Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, it's episode 1, 2, 3 today.
It's the drummer edition, right? You got to get your timing in there somehow, right?
I thought
1, 2, 3.
I thought that was the combination to your luggage.
It's the combination to my heart.
Do you know what movie that's from?
What?
1, 2, 3, 4. Huh, that's a combination to my luggage. That was Spaceballs.
Oh, okay.
So
May the Schwartz be with you.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. It's still a classic today. That holds up.
Yeah.
That is so good. Anyway, you see, today in episode 1, 2, 3, we're going to be talking playoffs.
Playoffs?
Playoffs?
We're talking playoffs?
Yeah, if you want to crown them, crown them. Yeah, we're going to be talking playoffs, most likely due to all the Super Bowl pre-plays that we were doing. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about playoffs. We got a whole bunch of feedback from you, the listeners, that we put up on Facebook, and a whole bit. We'll be getting to that as well. Before all that, let's get the housekeeping going here. Ways to get a hold of us.
Oh, sorry.
DigitalToDice.com. That's our website. That's where we park all the shows over on Spreaker. 978-751-DICE. 978-751-3423. You can text us. That's how you can get on the text line. DigitalToDice@yahoo.com is the email. It's been a busy email lately. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digital-to-dice is where you can join the discussion there. In fact, I've been really busy with work and kind of wrapping up a bunch of the different seasons that I'm doing, some of the junior hockey games, and filling in for a couple other people at some other things here. So I haven't been on top of the email. So if you sent an email and it's taking me 2 or 3 days to get to it, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, you're busy.
Yeah, I have that on my gaming computer, so I don't usually get to it until I fire up the gaming computer. And yeah, so I mean, it's I just been busy with work, so I haven't been able to get to it. I see it, and it's like, man, I want to respond, but I want to be typing on my phone if I got a lot to say, so I might have to wait till I get on my computer. But I have seen the stuff there, and I will be getting back to everybody shortly. One little shout-out I want to do here. If you saw my video on YouTube or any of the pictures on Facebook about my super awesome dice trays that I got.
Aren't they?
They are gorgeous, fantastic. I did a nice, high-quality video with my camera on them. They were made by Daniel Forcier, and it's Forcier. And if you want to get one of your own, go to my Facebook page, go to my YouTube video, and leave a comment there when you saw the pictures of the boxes. He did an absolutely fantastic job. In fact, it was the hockey one that I wanted because he did hockey and baseball. And he did a really neat hockey one where it looks like it's the boards against the blue line with the glass behind it. So you're rolling the dice like kind of against the blue line. I was like, oh, that would be fun to have. And then I saw the baseball one. I was like, boy, that looks really nice too. So I contacted him. I was like, can you do both? He's like, yeah, I'll do both for you. So he did both for me, and I wanted to give him a shout out because I told him I'd talk about him on the show as well as the YouTube and Facebook. Yeah, but
amazing stuff.
They're beautiful.
Chance to use the hockey one yet? I know you've used the baseball.
Not yet. No. In fact, I bought them both. So I was like, oh, I might as well get a baseball one too. But I like the hockey one the best. But the baseball one, when I got that in and I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh! And the dice roll so differently on that. You really got to give them a good shake to get them to bounce off the wall. But it feels like you're playing craps at the casino. Because you're not going down the dice tower, you're actually throwing them like you're throwing a game of craps, and that makes it really fun. And so I did a video with that, an overhead view of that, and it just come out great because I can put the pegs to show the bases. I was playing Apple at the time, so I put the pitchers in the outfield so you can see the pitcher cards, and then I overlaid the batter at home plate, and it just worked out really well. It really felt like you were watching a cards and dice game, which is what it was,
Yeah.
So anyway, shout out to Daniel for that there. So again, and if you can't find him on Facebook or YouTube or anything like that, send me an email, digitaltodice@yahoo.com, and I'll hook you up with him if you want one of your own. But they are, and he'll customize it too. And like I say in the video, although I asked him to do that. I had him do the 1980, well, it's 80-82. They're both the same with all the teams. So I had him put all the logos in the outfield, and then I, had my name on the stadium, and I put the 4 baseball games that I play kind of up on the the stanchions for the lights. And then the hockey one, he did three different seasons full of logos that you can interchange. And then he also did the digital to dice the logo there as well. So many different ways. It's all customized. Fantastic job by Daniel on that dice box. So anyway, so that being said, boy, you've been sending the wind down here my way, Ron. Thanks a lot for that, by the way. Thanks a lot for that.
You're welcome. I made sure I had the extra serving of chili just for you.
Our weather is
blowing out here right now.
When we get snow down here, we just can't get like a few hours of snow to make it pretty. We got to get a day and a half of snow. And when we get rain, it can't just rain for a little bit to, water the trees. It's got to rain for a day and a half. And when we get wind, it can't just blow a little bit. It's got to be a day and a half to 2 days of wind, to a point where, it's trash day today for us. I couldn't put out the trash the night before because it would have ended up down the street. So, I worked the hockey league Friday morning, so I'm racing home to try to make sure I get home before the trash man shows up, and I did, and I put it out, and it was out there for 20 minutes, and it's still blowing all over the place. Would just stop the wind just long enough for them to pick up my trash, and it's like, I don't know what I got to do. Do I got to duct tape these things shut just so they don't open up? And I saw my lid. I'm driving down my street, and I saw my trash barrel lid, and I had to stop and pick it up like 4 houses down. It's like, come on, that's how much wind we're getting. In fact, I looked out this morning, and before I let the dog out, I had to make sure that the fence wasn't blown down so he wouldn't run out into the woods and, get eaten by coyotes. And but luckily the fence held up. But boy, 50 miles an hour all night, I didn't get any sleep. As you can tell, I'm a little nasally today. I didn't get any sleep because that wind just kept waking me up.
We had 45 mile an hour sustained on Wednesday, which is why I couldn't stream. And they were talking about, power outages and there were some out in the country around here, just because that's just a lot of wind, and it just sounded like a freight train running through here. You just couldn't hear. It was going to get in my mic, just like you can hear that plane right now, because my window's open because it's 80 degrees in here. And then we had, it was 50 degrees, and then we had some freezing rain overnight, so it had some substantial snow melt. Freezing rain overnight, and now a new fresh coat of snow over the ice. So
the ice is the worst. You can take the snow, you can take the rain, but when it turns to ice, boy, I tell you, we had trouble getting in the car. I think it was last week because it had rained and it turned to ice. We couldn't even open the car door because it was like frozen shut. I'm getting a blowtorch out and trying to get it done.
Yep, schools are closed up here because of the ice. So,
oh wow.
So long vacation week for them that started today, as a matter of fact.
1 day extra. Yeah, there you go.
1 day extra. So,
all righty. So now that you got the weather report out of us here that we like to do.
Thank you, Willard.
I did that on the last show, too, in the game house. We always opened up with the weather because they were in San Francisco, and their weather was like, today is 58 degrees, and like every day it's 58 degrees in San Francisco. You know what I mean? Once in a while they get a hot day of 70, but their weather doesn't change out there. Out here, so they would be like, I'm getting snow, I'm getting wind, I'm getting rain, and that would all be in the same day, And, yesterday it was 60 degrees, and then tomorrow's going to be 20. So, I mean, they used to like the weather report out there because they got no weather in San Francisco.
It's the fake Mark Twain quote. The coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Pretty much.
Apparently he didn't say that, but it's attributed to him.
Well, there you go. So anyway, let's get to what we're playing, shall we?
Yes.
All right. Well, everything I'm going to talk about as far as what I played is probably going to be included in the topic of the day, which is playoffs, because I did a lot of football game playoffs for the title game. So I'll probably defer what I'm playing to you, except with the exception of I fired up my PlayStation 4, if you can believe it.
Okay.
I've been like I said, I live on YouTube and I love watching this YouTube videos. A new game come out for the PlayStation. It's kind of a PlayStation 4 and 5. I only have 4. That was a sequel to a game that I had played, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago. I forget how long it's been. It's called Horizon Zero Dawn is the name of the game. And it's a futuristic game about almost like cavemen, and they're fighting robot dinosaurs and just robot animals and things like that has taken over the earth. And it's a neat futuristic type of story. Kind of reminds me of Planet of the Apes, except instead of apes, you had robots. And you see all the ruined cities, and you find these little data tapes about what happened. And it's a very interesting story. And, I enjoyed that game very much. And they just come out with a brand new one. And so I was like, I might pick that up. And so I fired up the PlayStation. It took many updates because I hadn't turned it on in 6 months or so.
Oh, I bet that's had to update a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And so I got it updated, and I installed the game. So I'm playing the original game from the beginning, and with hopes that I'll get through that in the next few weeks, and then maybe at some point I'll pick up the new game that'll be on sale. But I haven't played a video game like that in quite some time. In fact, the wife yelled down last night. She's like, "Are you playing a video game?" Because she could hear the speakers rattling around, with the fighting. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, "You haven't played a video game in quite some time." I says, "I know." I said, "I'm still getting used to the controls and the movement. It's so different." But it's a game I really enjoy. It's probably like one of my top 3 or 4 open world games that I've played. So I did. I went back and I played some video games, and it was really fun. I'll probably stream some of that once it gets up to speed. Right now I'm in the beginning, and it's kind of boring. But once I get something fun happen, I'll stream a little bit so you guys can see that there. But so that's aside from the football stuff, I was playing a little bit of video game stuff.
There you go. Well, let's talk about your Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, that's right. They are just the kiss of death for those Celtics. They really are.
Oh, my God. So offline, about 18, 19 games into my 85, 86 Celtics replay on Strat-O-Matic, and I had won 11 straight. And we had crushed, the Kings, the Knicks a couple times, and the Pistons, and they are just a load of fun to play. And so I go down to the Omni in Atlanta, Skip Carey with you for Atlanta Hawks basketball, and I got spanked. It was the first, so I fell to 14-3. Oh, big whoop. But it was the first time that the Celtics had been held under 100 points. They held me to 83.
I'm telling you, there's something about that team because they beat me in replay PC basketball, and they beat me at least twice when I did the regular season basketball. Remember when I did the basic version of regular season basketball? I did the whole Celtics season. I couldn't beat them. I think it was like finally after 3 or 4 or 5 games, I finally beat the Hawks. But that was the one team in 2 different games that couldn't beat me. I couldn't beat them.
I don't usually pay attention to who I'm playing next because it's all about the journey. And so I saw it was the Hawks, and I'm playing your Hawks. And so the computer decides who's hurt, so there's no Kevin McHale. All right, that's fine. We'll deal. So, like I said, I get beat 92-83. Dominique Wilkins has a terrible game for Atlanta. It did enough. No McHale and Bill Walton fall out early in the fourth quarter. And Bird couldn't do anything. So, you were doing you're showing off the dice trays or the baseball dice roller thing. And so, that was that. So the next game of that I played.
Now, you see, I put up the Atlanta Hawks pennant over here behind me just for you.
Yeah, I saw that, Gardner. I saw that. So the next game of that I played was against Milwaukee, who also has was the second best record in the NBA. So the Celtics go to the Mecca and just absolutely obliterated Milwaukee. So we beat them by 24, 25, whatever, but we stumble over the Hawks. So did that. My 75-76 Islanders, now 46 games into that. Now, we went a month without losing. Not a month of me playing, but a month from just before Christmas to almost into February. And
you're humming along with that season. You really are.
I am. It's been fun. It's frustrating at times because they just don't score, but it's been fun. So they went 7-0-4.
Now, why did you pick that season in that team?
I had done that in Action PC.
Okay.
It was Brian Trottier's rookie year. So it was the first year that with the exception of Bossy, that core of Gillies, Trottier, and Potvin are together. The year before was the year that they made the Stanley Cup semis as a surprise. So Eddie Westfall is old, but can play a ton of minutes and that. So I did it in Action PC and got the Islanders into the finals. And they took game 1 in Montreal. And then that was it. Montreal, the Sacre Bleu. No. Mm-hmm. And so they were done in 5. So I figured I enjoying Strat hockey enough that I would want to do that run and see how they're doing. Well, in Action PC, they just kicked everyone's tail. And this, despite the fact that we went, who did we end? The Kings snapped the winning streak, unbeaten streak at 12 or 13. And then I ran into George Harrison's brother Paul and net and barely beat Minnesota. The Islanders are pretty much 2 points away from being knocked out of the playoffs.
Ooh.
Because of the way they did it that year. The 4 division winners get opening round byes, and then it's the next 8. Well, in the other conference, there are a whole mess of good teams. Boston, Buffalo, California still in the mix for that. Obviously, the Habs are leading a division, but the Kings and the Penguins are all right there. And so despite taking pretty much, if you go 8-4, you take 16 out of a possible 24 points or whatever, they're not gaining any ground on anybody. They're dead last in their division, over 500. They can't get past the Rangers, and they can't get past Atlanta.
Atlanta didn't have a bad team. The Flames were not that bad.
The bad teams are bad. And so, we have a couple more against Washington and Minnesota and Detroit and all that. But I looked at one point, there's like 6 games, I think, that they'll lose the rest of the way. But that's been fun. And Trottier is over 60 points, and I think Potvin is now over 60 points. But I'm having a blast with it. Finally pulled out some Strat baseball. I'm going to show off the new Strat baseball game tonight after dinner. And the Red Sox are through 73 games. So I'm 8 games away from doing the halfway video on that. They went down to New York and took 2 out of 3 from the Reggies. That was fun.
Now, you play a lot of Action PC, and then you're playing a lot of Strat as well. Baseball, I'm talking here.
Right.
I think you play the Strat PC baseball plays a lot quicker than Action PC, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, because I don't have any play-by-play turned on.
Okay, I was wondering why that played so fast compared to Action PC.
If I wasn't streaming Action PC, I'd probably be able to play a game in 30, 35, 20 if it's a pitcher's duel. But with this, it's just me.
So you don't have any animations or anything like that?
There's no animations. And so we just zip right through. If there's base runners on, I'll slow down. When you're doing a single team replay, there's a good flow with the speed and managing both teams. And so you got to be fair to the other team. So you're not sitting there going there. And this Red Sox team, again, they have all the power in the world. I think Carbo hit his 19th of the year.
Oh, nice.
We're not the All-Star break yet. This team is going to crush 200 easily.
Now, can you have the computer play the other team?
Sure, you can.
Okay.
You can, the computer is simming all the games in the American League except for the Red Sox games.
No, but I mean, when you're playing a game, you're playing the Red Sox, okay, so you're playing the Milwaukee Brewers, let's say, you can say computer controlled Milwaukee, and I'm doing Boston only. Right. Okay, you can control both. You can control both.
Okay. There's things that house rules, or if you have a 65% chance or more of stealing, you at least try to make the steal for both teams. Okay. And you leave pitchers in until they become fatigued. So I try to be somewhat fair.
Now, can you not to keep dwelling on it, because I don't have the baseball, so
right.
Can you in Action PC, you were actually the one that helped me figure out how to just play offense, so I wouldn't have to worry about.
I don't think you can do that in Strat.
Okay, so you have to play the full team all the way. Okay,
right. Now you can bounce around from game to game, so you don't have to manage every game. If you wanted to do a game of the week or whatever, you could do that. But I believe, because it is a cards and dice, that you at least run one of the sides.
Okay, I was wondering, because I do enjoy that with Action PC, whereas I don't know enough about shifting and bringing guys in, so I just hit and watch it play out. And I just
the computer actually in the Strat is very good about doing that for you.
Okay.
even with that. And so I don't change anything. So if it plays with the corners in, it plays with the corners in. It changes some of the card results and all that. So one of the reasons why it is so fast. And when you roll a dice in Strat it's the 3D6, the 20-sider is hidden on the roll, so you don't see that, at least to start. So you pass the bulk and the wild pitch chance. All right, so that's that for Strat. I will do a video. I did a pre-play for the Super Bowl using Pro Strategy Football, and I was wrong, but that was the Rams won that 27. The Bengals won that 27-20. But that was fun. Streamed that live. And I pulled out time travel tennis.
Ooh.
And I've set up a men's tour and a women's tour, and all the events are going to be the same, so they'll always be together. And having a blast. I posted Steffi Graf versus Diane Fromholtz, whose biggest claim to fame was she won a couple doubles majors, but got as high as 4 in the world in singles, but never won a major or never. They had been in an Australian Open final at one point, but that was about it. And they went at it. Oh my gosh, was that fun? 3 sets. It just could get anything.
Tennis games are surprisingly fun.
It's one of those things. But when it's over, it's over. I was playing while waiting for you to set up today, and so I had a Steffi match again today, and she's being challenged in the second set by Yvonne Goulagon. And if Goulagon wins, they go to a third set, and if Steffi wins, the match is over, and they get into a tiebreak, and Steffi won, and boom, it's over. But yes, that game is. It's a Richard Hanna computer game.
I have the demo of that, and I play that once in a while, and it's fun. And, I also have Inside Volley, which is an inside sports game. That is remarkably fun as well for a tennis game.
It works. You would think that a shot-by-shot, dice roll-by-dice roll game would be boring as hell. But no, it really isn't.
No, because you're rolling and it's like, is it good or not? Okay, and then I roll again. Because a lot of times it only takes 1 or 2 times to resolve the point. You're not going. You don't go 10 rolls deep for every point. Sometimes it's 1, and sometimes it's usually between 1 and 3 rolls for the point.
Yep.
So it moves along pretty quick.
The other thing is you can see how the point builds. So the higher the score during the point, the better you have of having more options available to you to close out the point, and the worse it is for the opponent to make an error. So it's not like it's endless. That's a heck of a game. What else have I been playing? The 85 replay has been going along. We're now Memorial Day.
You had a crazy play today, huh?
I had today. It'll be up on YouTube tomorrow. Dodgers and Mets. So Fernando versus Dwight Gooden. And it lived up to what it should have been. So Dodgers are threatening in the 6th, and nobody out. First and second. Gooden pitched okay. He wasn't great. And the chalkboard doesn't always get everything right. And again, kind of hard to illustrate all that. And so I saw a line drive, what I thought was to first, and Keith Hernandez make the play. And then in the corner of my eye at third, it says Web Gem. Like, oh, okay. And then I read on the play-by-play on the screen, triple play.
Joker, and a triple. And a triple.
And so if I showed it again, you wouldn't see it. So I got to go through and do that. So it was a line drive to third, speared by Howard Johnson. So there's one. Runners are going. So we flipped it to second for the second out and flipped it to Hernandez for the third. So, yeah, I'm trying to remember the last time I had a triple play. But anyway, so we're at the quarter pole of the 85 season. And, come join us. We do this a few days a week at lunch on twitch.tv/Retro Sports Network. But it's been fun. It's been everything that you'd want from a replay. And as other people say, it's like going through my baseball card collection.
Yeah.
So that's been pretty much what I've played.
All right. So, shall we get into the topic of the day?
Yes.
All right, here we go. All righty, so we're going to talk playoffs, but we're also going to weave in some of the results from some of the games that we played for the Super Bowl pre-play. Let me see. I played 5 different games in my replay. I played...
you need 5 different engines for that, right?
5 different engines, yeah. So I played Solitaire Pro Football, but I used the quick play results chart. I didn't play the full game. So I did Solitaire Pro Football quick play. I did game-winning drive because I have the Super Bowl team package, and so they sent out every year for free you get the Super Bowl teams. You don't get the season, but you get the 2 teams if you bought the Super Bowl package. I didn't think I got them, and everyone's playing it, and I'm like, I didn't get them, and someone's like, check your junk folder. Yeah, they're in the junk folder. So I finally did get them. So I got to play game-winning drive. Of course, I had to play fast drive football from Al Wilson. And then I played second season express and then second season full game. So I got a little bit of everything. I got the quick plays, I got the medium plays, I got the medium long play, and then I got the actual long play. So I played 5 different games. I didn't come close in any of them. The Rams won 4 out of the 5. The only one that the Bengals won was the fast drive football. That's the only one the Bengals won. They won it convincingly too. It was like 40-17 or something like that. My scores were a little bit higher in all the games than usual. I did have some real close ones. The best game I think I had was the second season express. That was the best game of the 5 that I played because it was all Rams. The Bengals had 5 turnovers, and then somehow in the fourth quarter, down 24-17, the Bengals scored 3 times to tie it at 24-24, and it was just a very memorable game. When in the last play of the game, the Rams drove it down and had a chance for a field goal. Somewhat of a chip shot, too, 11-64. Last play of the game. This is second season express, okay? And I rolled 66, and he missed the field goal that would have won him the Super Bowl. I go into overtime. Rams get it again. They miss it. They missed in overtime. Now, this was a little further out, so I think this was like 56 or something. But I rolled high, and I missed it again. Bengals couldn't do anything in overtime. Finally, the Rams actually got a touchdown pass to win it. And I forget if it was the OBJ or the Cup. I forget who it was to. So the Rams won that. And that was the last play of the first overtime. I went the full 15 minutes for that. So second season express was probably my favorite of the 5 that I played as far as excitement goes because it went to overtime. There was a huge comeback by the Bengals. Rams missed key field goals that could have won it for him. So that was my pre-plays there. With 4 out of the 5 went to the Rams, and I had all. It was fun because I had all different engines. That I played with there. So
yeah, that's the way to do it.
It was interesting to see the results of that.
Did second season release the whole season or just the Super Bowl teams?
I think it was actually a homebrew. It was on their blog, and someone said, "Oh, check out the blog. They released the Super Bowl teams for this year, so everybody could do the pre-play." I think that's a fantastic idea because I know a lot of people like to do that. So if you could just, even if it's a homebrew or if it's something close, to get the 2 teams out so people can play your game. Because now I'm excited to play second season again because they put those teams out. I really am.
And because there's 2 weeks between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, it just gives you something to do there. And for those of us who don't necessarily watch a lot of modern football, it kind of familiarizes yourself with how these teams operate.
Yeah.
When I did the pro strategy football, the Bengals won. The Rams committed a lot of penalties, a lot of stupid penalties too, which kind of foreshadowed the last few minutes of the real Super Bowl. Just a lot of stupid calls. So it was good, but I let the computer play it out, and I called it like, Al and Chris. So it's interesting to see it that way, because it's easier for the computer people to get their data out in there. So Second and 10 is out for 2021, and Pro Strategy Football is out for 2021 already. So you can play those seasons to your heart's content. But in the past, I've done pre-plays in second and 10 usually, and it just gives me a good indication of how those teams run that offense. Because again, I'm at this point in my life a casual NFL fan, and so any added insight to how, let's say, a few years ago when Kansas City played San Francisco, what I should expect to watch in that game made my enjoyment of the football game more, because I go, oh yeah, this is how this happened for me.
The only tough part about those, if you're trying to play playoffs with the current, or a pre-play with anything current, a lot of times these games, they don't come out with those teams until the next year, so it's really hard to play a game before it happens. But luckily, some of these game companies come out with stuff that you could play before, so that's what really made it fun.
Even with second and 10 in the past, it's not necessarily the final product for the year, because players' ratings change based on what awards they win. So if you were Defensive Player of the Year or made the APL Pro Team, and I don't know when those get released, some things will change. It gives you enough to know what should happen, but as far as the official set for said season, there may be some changes along. It's a beta version essentially.
But at least it's something that you can play. Now, I haven't done any of the computer games yet, because I don't think I have it in the modern seasons to play them anyway. So I'd have to get the second and 10, download that, and do that. But I played the cards and dice, and I had a lot of fun.
Right, but that was you got that done. And, Al got the season out, and you got it from a variety of different ways. And I'm sure, again, for you, it gave you a good indication of what to look for when it came to watching the championship.
Yeah. So let's talk about playoffs. And, I think I just touched on one of the things I wanted to, emphasize, is that when you're trying to play a modern season, you need to have those teams rated for the playoffs. And like I said, a lot of times they're a season behind. It's like, by the time this season comes out to play, it's next year. A lot of times,
active PCs will be out in July, and Strat will be out closer to the new football.
Yeah, so you got to wait to play if you want to play, the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup Finals or whatever it is. Sometimes you have to wait a while to get those teams. I know last year, shootout hockey, John got the season out right before the playoffs started, so you could sim the playoffs if you wanted to, and I know I did, or at least I did the Stanley Cup Finals, I think. So
I liked your Stanley Cup result.
Oh yeah, when Montreal over Tampa, I think it was in 5 games too, if you can believe it.
It was.
This year, I don't know if Montreal's going to win 5 games in the regular season.
They won their first for Marty.
Oh, did they?
Yep. So we finally won 8 this season.
Oh, they're worse than Seattle.
Oh, they're terrible. They are absolutely terrible.
I don't know what's going on with them.
They did make that trade with Philadelphia for draft picks for Toffoli or whatever his name is. So they've started to rebuild. So poor Dominic Ducharme. Now that we're on the taking the aside here, he coaches 83 regular season games. He has a winning percentage of .383, which for hockey is just god awful. Mm-hmm. But somehow, some way, he made the Stanley Cup final.
It happens.
It happens anyway. So
we put this question out. We're talking playoffs out on Facebook, and we want to read you some of the responses that we got, and then maybe that'll trigger some discussion for us. So let's go here. So I just said we're going to talk playoffs the next show. How do you handle playing playoffs? Jen responds with, "We usually clear all injuries. Everyone's healthy." That's interesting.
Yeah, no, that's especially if you're starting. I think one of the things, if you're new to gaming, playoffs are easy to do. And so everyone starts with a clean slate, and you just kind of go with the best of the best. And so, yes.
Yep, that's one way to do it. Or again, you could see who played in the playoffs. That's what I try to do sometimes if I'm playing a playoff replay. I try to get the guys who actually played in it. And there was one or two, and I don't know if it was the 78 one I did or the 69-70 hockey playoffs that I did, that there was a couple of guys that, like key guys, that weren't on the roster at that time. So I don't know if they were hurt or if they were traded, but they were on the team with the Cards, but they weren't in the playoffs. So I was like, well, if they weren't in the playoffs, then I'm not going to play them. So again, did you play best against best? Do you play who's carded, or do you try to go with who actually played in the playoffs?
In the Action PC baseball playoffs, and that would, over the years, because you're coming down the stretch, who played in the last couple of weeks, and I just kind of I'll give an example. A couple of years ago, we had the Orioles, 82 Orioles, made the playoffs, and so someone asked if Tim Stoddard would be pitching for me in the playoffs, because just because they didn't close the season doesn't mean that they could, when would he have been available? Well, it turned out Stoddard had fell down a flight of stairs at a nightclub in New York.
Oh,
and they were kind of hoping he'd be ready for spring training. So I did not have Stoddard on my playoff roster because he wouldn't have played if they had made it. So I think, again, there's no wrong answer.
Yep.
But for those type of things, when it's a continuation of your season-long project, we try to keep the rosters close to what they were. And if you get the right teams, obviously you can look through and say so-and-so played.
Now, when I did the Pocket Pennant Run 1980 playoffs replay, it wasn't a pre-play, it was a replay from 1980. The Yankees, actually, the Yankees and the Astros went to the finals, but one of the Yankee pitchers for Pocket Pennant was listed as a relief pitcher, but he actually was a starter.
Yeah, Rudy May.
Rudy May, yeah. So I had to go in and adjust him in the software to make him a starter. But again, that's another one of those things: is do I pitch him, or if he's a reliever, do I keep him as a reliever? And I ended up pitching him. So
other thing that you did was that was the year of J.R. Richards' stroke with the Astros.
Yeah, I did not play him,
and you chose not to play him.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's no wrong answer there, and I think that's kind of the right answer. If you were an Astros fan, that's the what if.
Yeah.
If they're so yes, but clearing out the injuries, especially if you're new to the game and just want to, because playoffs, a short series is just a great way to get your feet wet during a game.
Let me see. Jason writes in, if I'm replaying a particular team's season, I put them in whatever seed their record would put them in and have the playoff bracket look like it did in real life, with the exception being wherever my team finished in my replay. Normally it's the Capitals regular season and postseason.
Okay.
So that's kind of interesting, is that so he plays his team out, he takes the actual record and then compares it to what happened in real life, and then he slots his team in it.
I bet that's probably the most common thing if you're doing cards and dice, because with the computer you're going to have everyone's records and all the stats, so you can do them that way. But
There's somebody on Delphi that's using Inside the Crease, and they're replaying the Cleveland Crusaders from the World Hockey Association with Jerry Cheevers was the goalie for that team. So he's playing just the Cleveland games, and he's posting standings. So I'm like, well, how are you doing all the standings if you're just playing the one game? And he says, I'm using the actual scores for all the other games. So it's kind of neat. So he plays his game, so whatever the score is, he logs that in and then goes back to see all the other games to exactly what happened. So I like that idea.
That's very creative.
So you're playing your team, but everything else happened as it happened. So
as it happened, yep.
So so that's kind of interesting. So it sounds like Jason's kind of doing a similar thing. Let me see. Mike from the truck. Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Your check's in the mail.
Right. Glenn writes in, depends on the sport. Baseball, I go with the lineups that make the most sense, keeping the active roster number to whatever is real, 25, etc. Also, roll the fatigue over from the regular season. So if a starter X pitched in game 162, he's not ready for game one to the playoffs. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yep.
That's what I did in there. So last year we did the 49, and the Dodgers and Cardinals had a playoff. So there was a 2-game playoff, and so we started the World Series right after. And so yes, instead of going with as played, because there was no playoff, you had to go with what would be realistic. Okay, you got a couple days off to go through there, but you have to go to the pitching matchups accordingly. And so that's how I do it as well.
Mm-hmm. He goes on to say, NFL is pretty easy. Only real decision is the quarterback. And in the NHL Cup playoffs with Action PC, he says he goes to Wikipedia, he looks on the recaps and tries to use the actual dress lineups, and that works fairly well. He says for the opening round games.
Right.
But when you go in length past what a real series did, or get a different matchup down the road, he tries to go what makes most sense. And that's kind of what I did with the Astros and the Yankees. You know, when they went to the World Series there, you know, because, again, I was gone past what they normally would do. And so at that point there, it just becomes, you know, dealer's choice, you know.
Yes.
He says goalie choices can be the biggest thing to decide on. Injuries are turned on for all, then let the chips fall where they may. So, Glenn, that's a good one, Glenn. Nice job. Let's see. David writes in, oddly, I never rolled playoff baseball. Or I never roll playoff baseball. I tend to run only regular season replays, just playing the games of an AL team. I try to better their win-life record. And when I complete 162, I start another season. So David doesn't like to play playoffs. How about that?
You know, it depends if you're, you know, I would think if his team doesn't make the playoffs,
Yep.
then you really have no vested interest in it.
This is true. Yeah, so maybe his team didn't make the playoffs that year.
If the 77 Sox don't win the division, I'm not going to bother with it because it's a Red Sox thing. It's not a season. It's a Red Sox replay. It's not a MLB replay. Yep. So I get that.
Michael writes in, great topic. I tend to keep my historically accurate in terms of setup. I think keep mine historically accurate in terms of setup, right. I think is what he meant to say. I struggled in my 75 and 76 seasons in that if the Red Sox make the playoffs, do I bring back Jim Rice and Canigliaro who are injured?
Again, I mean, we talked a little bit about this with J.R. Richard. It's your replay. Al Red Sox fan did the 67 World Series with Canigliaro healthy. Again, you know, if you are a fan of a said team, such as the Red Sox, then yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, in 75, the Reds should win that World Series anyway, but why not? Why not?
Or play it both ways. Play it with the actual lineups and then play it with the guys who should have been there and see what you get. I mean, that's the great thing about this hobby. There's no right or wrong, and you can play it as many times as you want, as many different ways, and see what results you get. And that might be kind of fun, too, is to do it a couple different times. So, yep. Marco, our friend Marco writes in.
Yes.
Playoffs are a problem, yeah. Yeah, I can see where he's going with this. Specifically for basketball, where minutes played for players are very different from the regular season.
Absolutely.
Games are rated on regular season stats, and trying to replay playoffs leads to something not accurate. And that's kind of where I was going with the whole rating system and rating for the regular season. And, you know, playoffs, teams get hot, teams get cold. So, yeah, Marco hits it right on the head with that.
I mean, there were LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan might average 38 to 40 a game in the regular season. But guess what? Certainly there were games that they never sat down, especially if it was an elimination game for them. They're playing the whole way through. The game engine penalized them for doing that. Some do and some don't.
Yeah, that's a tough thing about rating these games is you rate for regular season, but people are expecting the playoffs to come out, you know, as the playoffs come out, and I don't know how these game developers do it. I really don't. Mark writes in, I never get far enough in a project to get to the playoffs before moving on to another project. LOL. I think we all feel you for that, Mark.
Yeah, we've all been there, done that.
We all start a project, and then we never quite get to the playoffs. I hear you on that one there. And let me see another one here from Curtis. Baseball. I prefer a combination of as played for other teams and what if for the team I'm managing.
Interesting.
Yep.
It goes right back to you are the manager.
Yep. If the teams that actually played are playing in my replay playoffs, then I stick with the actual lineups. The problems start when a team that didn't actually make the playoffs is one of my playoff teams. Yeah, that would make sense. So what do you do? You know, if a team makes the playoffs that wasn't in the playoffs, so then
a couple of years ago, I had the Rangers and the Yankees in the American League Championship Series, and the Yankees won that division well before the last weekend. So there is no playoff game in Boston where Guidry had to go. And the Rangers, of course, didn't make it in real life. So do you go with as played, or do you go with what the story tells you to do? And it ends with Guidry getting lit up in Game 5 and being knocked out in the third inning. But he didn't. So, yes. So you could go both ways with that.
Yeah. So he goes on to say, at that point, I try to determine the rosters based on the last day in August as well as the starting rotation.
Yep.
I will also try to determine injuries and which pitchers need to rest. It can be tedious research, but I enjoy it. For my own what-if team, I simply move into the playoffs of the roster based on MLB rules and dates, and I can carry injuries and players needing a rest into the postseason, too. So it sounds like, that's a good idea, and I like that. What if, a team that is in your playoff replay wasn't in the playoffs? Now you got to kind of be the manager for them.
Well, the thing is, if you're not on a major league roster by September 1st on that team's roster, you're not eligible for the playoffs. So let's say you pick up somebody after Labor Day and they go great guns for you and get you in the playoffs. Well, because they weren't on any major league roster, not just your roster, but any major league roster, they're not eligible because you got them after September 1st.
It might be interesting now that I kind of think this through as we talk about the what-ifs and, whatever. It would be fun to play that 70-71 playoffs without Dryden in net for the Canadians.
Who was their backup, Worsley?
No. Was it?
I don't know.
Was it LaRock? Was it Bunny LaRock at that point there?
I don't think Bunny was there yet.
Yeah, I don't know who the backup for Dryden was.
Because that's the thing. You can come, I know that you can come right out of college, your college season being done, because the Frozen Four ends right about the time that the Stanley Cup playoffs start. Come right out of college, get on the roster, and play in the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, you could jump right in there. But it would be fun to see, to take that team.
He's looking to see who that was.
I am. It's bugging me now who that goalie was.
Or was it Plant?
Vachon and Phil Muir.
Rogie Vachon.
Rogie Vachon and Phil Muir. Those were the guys.
Okay.
So, just in case you want to. So maybe I try that playoffs out. Dryden played all the games. Dryden played all the playoff games, all 20 of them. so maybe I take Dryden. He only played 6 in the regular season, so he came in at the end. So that's another one of those. How do you rate a guy that played 6 games and then won the cup? That's kind of what Marco was talking about as far as
exactly. Exactly.
So anyway. So that's that. So we want to thank everybody for the comments there when we talked about playoffs, and I think that covered pretty much everything that I was thinking about. Is that what do you do? Do you reset the injuries? Do you play the as played lineups? If you got a guy like I say like Rice or J.R. Richards that didn't play, do you play them and see what the results are? I mean, there's so many ways to do it.
Depending on the project, because there are some people who only, like you did, who only play playoffs. It's up to you who you want. If I've done a regular season project and then hit the postseason based on that, then for me it's going to be a continuation of what was going on in the regular season. So for the Rice question, I'd probably go back and read the Globe archive. When did they expect him back? Maybe do you hold him out of the ALCS and bring him? It's again, there is no wrong answer.
And what if you would have played that season and Rice doesn't get hurt, but maybe Yastrzemski does? So now do you honor the Yastrzemski injury, but say, well, Rice didn't get hurt, so I'm going to play it?
That's the beauty of something like OTP. If you play it, as a GM type sim, you don't. Doesn't mean that the injuries are going to be there. It just means that Rice didn't play that many games. And so, yes, you could conceivably have, Bill Lee get hurt or Louis Tignon get hurt. I mean, that's it just makes for a great wild card and a great story.
I think for me is what one of the commenters said was, especially when it comes to football, you're just looking at the quarterbacks. For hockey, you want to get the goalies, and maybe you try to get close to the lineups there. Baseball has the most information. Though. So baseball, you can really get down to the nitty-gritty,
But here's the thing. Depending on, it'd be interesting as I go through and place the Islanders with Strat. already debating if the Islanders make the playoffs. I can't believe with their record it's still an if. Chico Resch had the better card. He's a better goalie than Billy Smith. Billy Smith kind of, I don't want to say tanked regular seasons, but was not a great regular season goalie. But when the pressure was on, that's who you wanted in net in the postseason. But because, as we talked about, everything's ready for the regular season, my inkling is that Chico, at least for this first year, is going to get the bulk all of the playoff starts because I'm there to win. I'm not there to recreate history. I'm there to win, to change history.
What I do when I play hockey playoffs, because I play mostly 70s and 80s, is they didn't ride a goalie. I mean, Dryden was an anomaly. They didn't ride one goalie. If you go back and look at a lot of the playoffs, I would say a good 70 to 80% of the teams used two different goalies in the playoffs. I mean, unless you were on a hot streak, you kept playing, but, the Rangers played, Jacquemin and Velimir in the Cup Finals against the Bruins in 72. The Bruins I think they played both Cheevers and Johnston. And the Blues, when they played in 1970, they played 3 or 4 different goalies.
That's right.
So, and I know one of them got hurt. But, so they didn't really ride the one goalie back then like they do now. So when you play back in the day, I alternate the goalies. I would try to just, to be fair, to try to alternate the goalies to try to be as realistic as possible. So,
but it's on the other side of that coin, or devil's advocate, you're trying to win. You go with.
Yeah, I think if you're managing a team, then you're going with your best to win. If I'm just playing from above and I just want to see it play out and I'm not managing, then I'm going to try to get as close as possible.
And if Resch gets blown up, in the first game of the playoffs, if he loses 6-2, you're not leaving him in a game 2. You would obviously go to, okay, your turn there.
What I would do with hockey is that if the goalie played well, even if he lost, if he gave up 1 goal or 2 goals, but he saw a ton of shots, I keep him in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And if he won. And if he gave up 4 goals and he won 5-4 and he saw 20 shots, he gave up 4 goals, he's not going in the next game. So I would kind of just go on my gut saying, if I was the coach, would I put this guy back in or not, even though he's not my best guy? And the temptation, especially for hockey, is that you get 2 goalies and one's carded better than the other if you're playing cards and dice, or even on the PC, one's going to be a better goalie than the other.
Right.
So the inkling is to always play your best goalie throughout. But to capture a little bit of the reality of it and the human factor, I will put in the second goalie or the backup goalie or the guy who didn't play as much just to give it some variety. And so it's not just always the best, because if the best didn't play good in the game, then, I'm thinking, his ratings aren't going to change on the card, but in my mind, maybe he's in a funk.
Yeah.
And so for realistic purposes or just for fantasy, whatever it is, I'm going to put in the other guy for a game.
Storytelling aspect of
exactly.
It, sure.
Yeah, that's what I was getting. Yeah, the storytelling says, I'm going to go to this other guy, and then maybe you come back with the starting goalie later in the series to see if he can mop it up or whatever. But I think it makes for a better story if you're not just always playing the best guy every time. So anyway, so that's that. So again, thanks everybody for your feedback. We talked a little bit about playing playoffs here on episode 123 of Digital Today. Should we wrap this up?
Absolutely.
So by the numbers, this has been episode 123 of the Digital Today's podcast. Recording this mid-February here. In
the 18th.
Yeah, the 18th in 2022. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thanks to everybody who gave us feedback on this show here. Ways to get a hold of us. DigitalTodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. 978-751-3423. DigitalTodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, where we got all these answers to our questions. Facebook.com/groups/DigitalTodice. Ron, thanks for joining me.
As always.
And I'm going to send the wind back to you.
Bye-bye.